Oh, hello.
Hey,
How are you doing?
good. How are you doing?
Great. I have a couple of questions for you. What is the best strategy to test a market with Facebook ads?
The best strategy to test a market with Facebook ads. So I would say for that, there isn't really a blanket strategy for any market. It would really depend on who you're going after and why. Or maybe to give you a little more context as to what type of campaigns you're running, or just something that would maybe be more helpful, just like in the weeds type of a question, because I think that there's so many different strategies for different campaigns. It really just depends on what your objective is, and then how you can reverse engineer that to make it happen online.
Okay, let's say I want to target clients for an automotive company. How would you test that kind of strategy?
So for automotive clients, so for that you would want to find people that are trying to, maybe in the market for cars. So I would say services like Car Soup, or just like different websites that would be of interest to those people that essentially are looking for cars. I'm trying to think here. I haven't really done any specific car marketing, but if I was going to, the first thing I would do is ask the dealership, if they have an email list or a current subscriber list, and start there, because that's gonna obviously be a targeted group of people that have either already purchased from the dealership already, that you can either A, market directly to again to see if maybe they're in the market for a car now, since they've already sold to them. And then also you can have you built lookalike audiences before?
No, actually I just started the course 2 weeks ago, and as I said, I'm a beginner,
Yep.
So I'm just trying to get some ideas and strategies maybe to have a better start,
Definitely. Yeah, so lookalike audiences can be powerful too. If you have that email list from the dealership, you can plug that into Facebook as a custom audience, and then essentially Facebook will analyze that group of people and scan 100 different points on each customer, and then try to find people that look like that audience, and you can segment it by location. Are you in Germany, you said?
Austria.
Austria.
Germany.
Yep. Okay, cool. So yeah, you would just do a location-based targeting, for your state or city, country, and essentially market people that way by leveraging their existing list, and then building a lookalike audience off of that. That's usually going to be your best bet when first starting out. You can target individual interests, but the more you stack and the more specific you get with the interest, the higher you're going to pay for cost per action. So it's a little bit, Facebook basically knows, like, okay, this person knows exactly who they're looking for, I'm going to make them pay for it. Okay. The goal is really to go as wide and as broad as possible while still achieving the result that you're looking for.
Okay. And what do you think about outsourcing Facebook ads to other companies? Let's say you pay, or a freelancer, you pay something to him, an amount of money, and they do the work. What do you think about that?
So, you can do that. It just depends on how much profit you want to lose. Obviously, if you can do it yourself, you're going to have more profit in the beginning. And that's what we did. For us, we didn't have a lot of starting capital. We had to learn this stuff ourselves and do it as economically as possible, which meant me physically running the ads. You could partner and outsource that out, and I think eventually you're going to have to, but it just depends on what kind of position you're in. Like right now, we're just starting to onboard people to help us with the Facebook ads. but we're still not in a position where we want to give up all the money. So we're more or less leveraging freelancers to help with some of the creative and just like the time intensive stuff. And then I'll still manage like the actual optimization and campaign creation strategy and all that.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
One more thought on that, just to jump in.
How to test multiple functions most efficiently? Let's say, how do I know, or how do I test for videos, slideshows, or the carousel option? And how do you do that to test what works the best for you?
Do you want to say something there?
Yeah.
I got my partner David on the line here too. I think he had something he might have wanted to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so real quick, just to circle back to the outsourcing question you had, one thing that I kind of wanted to highlight, and we recommend this to all of our clients too, is at least becoming as familiar as possible with the service that you're providing. So there's a lot to be said for actually knowing how to run Facebook campaigns instead of just immediately outsourcing it. So, kind of falling on your face a little bit, going through the struggles, spending money through the platform, seeing what works, what doesn't, is only going to make your efforts and your management of the freelancers that you use down the line more effective. So when you're vetting those people, when you're interviewing them, knowing what questions to ask, I mean, if you've talked to clients, you know how little they may or may not know about the different platforms. So the last thing you want to do is basically be a glorified middleman between your client and the actual practitioner. And at that point, there's not a whole lot of value that you're providing. So, obviously different services, being like a full service firm is helpful, but really kind of getting an understanding of those services, becoming a practitioner yourself. Like Derek's our Facebook rock star. I do the email marketing stuff. Eventually, we probably will have people who do all that work for us, and it's not a one-to-one relationship between us. But because we know how to perform those services, we know how to structure an actual service offering around that, if that makes sense.
But I don't know if you know, if you have anything to add to the questions, it would be interesting how to test the multiple functions for the most efficiency, like videos, slideshows, or the carousel. How do you test those things for the best efficiency?
So are you asking just how to split test different
Yes.
different ads and like carousel versus video versus imagery?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when you're split testing, you want to make sure that you're only testing a few different options. So you've got your campaign, which is, it depends on your goal. So say you're going for lead generation, you're trying to get leads. So the campaign level is leads. On the ad set level, you've got multiple different audiences, say one or two to stick with. You've got your lookalike audience that you built, and then like your interest-based audience. Then on the ad side, you can do carousel, images, video, and text. A quick way to split test that is you have one audience and you've got one text variant, so those two are consistent, but then you have 3 different mediums, so video, photo, carousel, and so you're using the same text on each one and the same audience, and you're just able to really do that. And it all depends on budget, like how you're going to break it down. So if you're spending like $20 a day, then you want to make sure that each ad, if you're running 4 different ads, that they're each spending $5 a day, or however you want to break it up, so each ad set is spending the same amount of money and has the same creative elements, but you just switch out one variable. So you can split test text, you can split test the imagery, you can split test the audience, but to really tell what's working and what's not, you got to keep the variables the same except for one variant, and then just keep it running the same duration, give each ad set the same amount of money, and see what performs better.
So, but you wouldn't do it all at the same time. You would divide it into different time frames.
No, you would want to do it at the same time.
Okay.
Because if you run video for a week and then run carousel for a week and run images for a week, you can't really compare them and say, well, carousel did better because carousel could have been over a holiday weekend and the videos and the imagery were on other times that people weren't as available. So you want to make sure that the time is happening the same and then the spend is the same.
But wouldn't it be also conflicting if you do it at the same time? Because let's say if you target someone with the same post but with a different split, that they, let's say, engage the first time but not the second, and so you wouldn't know exactly what works better. So how do you eliminate those factors?
You're always going to have that, and it's going to be more apparent if you have a smaller audience, but if you have a big enough audience, it's not really going to make a difference. Typically the same person isn't going to see the ad multiple times if you're just running it for a 24, 48 hour, a week long period, but if you're doing it for a long period of time, like they're going to keep seeing it. And there's actually a category in Facebook called frequency. So if you look at the frequency column, it'll tell you if it says 1, that means everyone has seen your ad at least once. If it's a 2, then on average people in your group have seen your ads twice, and then so on and so forth.
Okay, what parameters are there, maybe also indirect parameters, to know what works best? For example, I don't know, if you have a similar audience like like a different company, and you see how many people like their page, who also likes your page, that would be for me an indirect indicator. Are there such indicators that are useful?
I'm a little confused by your question. Maybe rephrase it just so I understand.
If you have, let's say, Joe Soto talked about, if you have, let's say, audience of 5,000 people, 5,000 likes on your Facebook page, and a similar company has, let's say, 50,000, and of those 50,000, let's say 500 also liked your page. Okay, so the same people like the company's page and your page.
Yep.
Talked about a certain percentage of people who like other pages and yours, and those percentage, there's a amount of percentage that is significant that you should target to. And the question is, are there any other indirect ways or tools to use that are helpful? I don't know if I explained it very well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So if you're looking, I'll probably go in a couple different directions, but if you basically have a page that's similar to yours and you want to target their followers, but you want to find out, I want to target people who like my page and that page, in the ad set level, you would type in their page that you want, say it's Tony Robbins, and your page, instead of stacking them on top of each other, because then it'll go for people that like your page or Tony Robbins' page. There's a narrow feature, narrow further, so you would just click narrow further, so then it breaks it down into 2 lines. So then it'll give you a smaller audience of only people that like Tony Robbins' page and your page.
Okay. It's the same.
Like I said, the more specific you get like that, the more the higher the costs are for your targeting, and like the more you're gonna pay per lead. So if you can go broad, do it. But testing in small segments is also a good thing to try. But in general, I would say go broad first, and train your pixel in getting leads on a broad scale before you go super narrow like that.
Okay, yeah.
Other techniques in that vein, there's also a feature called people who like my page and friends of friends that like my page in the targeting section. So just below the interest group, there's a little toggle drop down where you can select your Facebook page and you can either target people that just like your page or friends of friends. So anyone that likes your page's friends is also a strong group to go after, that's mostly likely pretty close to what you're going for.
Okay, thank you very much. And how to adopt to Facebook algorithm changes? How would you do that?
Just by running ads and doing it, being in the weeds and being a practitioner. Like there's no manual that comes out quarterly that you can read or study on Facebook algorithm changes. You just learn by testing and doing. And if something worked for you in the past and it's working consistently and all of a sudden it goes to hell, then you got to adjust and just try and test new things. Surround yourself with like other groups that are testing as well, so you can speed up that process. So, you know, groups like the SMMA Hacks or the group that you're in now. I'm in other mastermind groups as well. It's just good to keep your finger on the pulse of the industry. And you're only one person, so you can only test so much. But if you can surround yourself with all these people that are testing in different markets and different industries, you're going to be that much quicker to adapt to those algorithm changes, because they're going to happen. It happens all the time. You just got to be aware of it and be a practitioner to really know what's going on and how to combat those changes.
And how much money would you spend in testing for new things?
It depends on how much budget you have. You know, you can get a good test going with $500. You can get a good test going with $1,000. It really depends on your client's budget and like what their goals are. I mean, the bigger their goals are, the wider and the deeper you want to go. But there's not like a set amount. I mean, obviously, to give an ad set enough juice and enough spend to really know what's going on, you should probably at least be doing like $20 a day on an ad, just to really get a feel for the market. And even that's pretty low. I mean, that's sort of minimum. I have some clients that they want to spend like $1 or $5 a day. It's such a small sample size that even if you get some wins, you don't really know if it actually worked. So
did that change? And then 2 years before, because Joe Soto always tests with $5, so would you say changed? You have to spend more, or is it in general you should pay more? Spend more?
Yeah, I mean, as more and more people market in Facebook, there's going to be more competition and the cost per action is going to increase. It's just inevitable. So yeah, if you look back at trainings 2 years ago, you know, they could say $5 is effective. You know, 2 years from now, it's going to be 50 to 100. It just depends on how many big brands jump on and keep advertising. And the more competition, the more you have to pay to get in front of people. So that makes sense that it was lower back when he recorded it. But $5 a day can work. It can totally work for the right business. If it's a small enough niche local business, you can get a sample size like that if you want to test small. But if you're going after like a national audience for e-commerce, like $5 a day isn't really going to tell you too much.
Let's say a target clients for a car dealership locally, but of course cars are expensive. So does that even matter, or is it only about testing the audience?
I think Dave wanted to jump in and say something here really quick.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let Derek answer kind of the $5 against a very competitive industry like auto dealership question. But I think you're a lot like Derek and myself after we took the Ty Lopez course, which is we took a ton of value from what Joe Soto was saying. Probably the most value out of the entire course by a long shot. I'm sure you probably share that sentiment. And I think what you'll notice though is that Joe's a pretty high level thinker. He's managing a team. He obviously kind of came up through the ranks, but he has become more of a manager as opposed to a practitioner. So he brought a lot of great ideas and concepts to the table, kind of like the best practice methodologies that I'm sure a lot of his team members are using. But I think that Derek and I, after the first couple of months in business, realized that there was a million different ways to kind of deploy some of these strategies and a ton of different places to learn different pieces of information. Some are look at the way that they do their pricing in the course. There's a number of different ways that you can price your services as opposed to one-size-fits-all packages. There's different services that you can offer that are under digital marketing that they never really talk about or they gloss over. There's different testing methodologies. The Facebook quote kind of training in the SMMA course is extremely high level. Like there's so much more out there that you can learn and so many different ideas to test. I'll let Derek jump in on like the $5 against the competitive industry, like car dealerships for the $5 spend, but I would just say use that as like the very starting point. And like, joining these groups is the first step towards learning all the stuff that you can be learning. People like Derek are sharing all their information and the knowledge. Having phone calls like this, there's so much out there. There's entire SMMA duration courses out there just on Facebook ads. So I'd encourage you just to like be curious and learn anywhere you can about the different ideas. Joe Soto's the best start in that course for sure, but it's just a start. That's one methodology.
Yes. I just bought on Udemy. I don't know if you're familiar with that site, Udemy, a new course with Facebook ads 2018. So would you suggest such courses to further learn, or is it better to learn it from people like you? Let's say you talk to people who are in the fields, or would you say it is also important to do it over additional courses?
The answer is both. You need both. You need courses, you testing yourself, you talking to others that are practitioners as well. Really all of the above. Like there's really not enough that you can absorb. That there's a point where you need to stop learning and start executing for sure. Especially when you're in the beginning. I think that you need to have a healthy mix of learning, doing these courses, joining these groups, but also getting a client and actually putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and running these ads, because that's where you're going to learn the most. You can learn a lot of the basics from courses and talking to people, but until you spend somebody else's money and have to answer to them next week on how it went, you're going to get much more resourceful and quick-witted and get better with Facebook ads when you have that pressure on you.
So would you suggest at the beginning that you spend, let's say, if I go to car dealer, and that I spend my own money, let's say $300 or something, to do it for him, as like a tool to create a testimonial for myself? Would that be a good idea, or what would you suggest for that?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't spend your own money. I mean, you could, but I think you can get people to. If you want to just get a testimonial, you could offer your service for free and have them pay for the ad spend. That could be an alternative for you to just get your feet wet and get a testimonial. But I wouldn't accrue the upfront costs for promoting somebody else's business unless you have some sort of royalty deal on the back end that you're going to make X percentage on the sales.
Okay, yeah. Royalty, okay.
And one thing I'd say too, just kind of from the nature of that question, maybe making an assumption here, but there's no shortage of people who will pay you to actually invest their own money to actually do it. If you've never been in sales before, you've never, it's a numbers game. If you're thinking along those lines, instead try and talk to 50 people and see which one of them will give you the shot. That was one thing, Derek and I went back and forth on. Like we were talking to our first prospect, it was like really qualified, and she started asking these, just being honest all the way through, like, you're my first client, I'm discounting my services by X. I wouldn't give my services away for free. I'd give them a deep discount in the first month, maybe, to prove what it's worth to them. But I definitely wouldn't invest your own money, just because there's no shortage of people who will pay you and your fee and the ad spend. It's just a matter of getting through the no's, and you're going to have more no's on that first client than you will at any other point. It's just getting through those no's and then getting to that first deal.
what do you think about the 100% money back guarantee? Suggested by Ty Lopez.
We've never done it. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I really don't, because like a lot of times it's not all in your hands. Like you're not creating the product, you're not fulfilling the service, you're just getting people to know about it or driving leads to their business. Like you can bring people into the dealership, but you're not going to hold their hand and test drive them and close them and sign them. Like that's all on them. So you can only control what you can control, and to put a money back guarantee on something that's more than 50% out of your hands is a mistake in my opinion.
Okay, and do you combine other social media with, or at least at the beginning, would you focus only on Facebook?
Yeah, I would do as much as you can. Facebook, Instagram, email marketing, whatever you can get for the scope. Really, more is always better, for sure. Okay. It just depends on how much time that you can allocate to it is really the question. Yeah. Not if you should do more, it's just like, can you do more?
Okay. And how do you calculate the outcome? Let's say for a client, how do you know how much you have to spend and how much do you charge for it to get a certain outcome?
That's just based on finding out what their goals are. So you'll have that first conversation to just find out, if there's interest or not, and then like I think I said to somebody else in the group, they had issues with closing. They couldn't close the deal. They go through the process and then they wouldn't get the call back at the end. They sounded like they're interested, but they fell off. And it was because he was just talking about how great social media was and how it can impact their business, but he was like totally skipping over like what the business's problems are, what their goals are, where they want to be. Probing and finding out those questions and finding out those pain points is what's going to give you the data to really put a price point on what you need to do. So if they're trying to get 1 to 2 customers a month, say, okay, cool, that you want 1 to 2 extra customers a month. How much is a customer worth to you? Okay, each customer is $2,000. Okay, so you want to make $4,000 more a month, and that's going to be a success for you. How much ad spend do we have to do plus my fee to get an extra $4,000 in revenue? Obviously you're not going to be able to charge $10,000 to make $4,000. It could be a situation where they'll pay $1,000 to make $4,000, or they'll make $500 to make $4,000. I mean, it's typically going to be a lot more than that. Their goals are going to be, I want, an extra $30,000 a month in revenue or whatever. So you just need to find out what their goals are, reverse engineer what it's going to take out of your time, and Facebook ad money to make that happen, and go from there. I think Dave has.
Yeah, a lot of the business owners you are going to talk with probably haven't even asked those questions themselves. Like a lot of the times, Derek will just say, "So, how much more business could you, realistically handle without having to hire more people?" And they go, "Huh." And immediately that puts you in a position of power, because they're like, "Excuse my French, but holy shit, how many leads is this guy going to bring us?" It just completely changes the entire discussion from, I'm trying to sell you my services, to, I could change your entire business and your life if all goes according to plan. Which, if you ask those questions early on, that can really help you get through those no's, because you're thinking strategically about their business as opposed to just approaching it from, let's talk about social media. Let's talk about growing your business sustainably, being considerate of their business, making sure that their level of service and the quality stays the same, even though you're bringing them more business. So that really kind of opens the floodgates in terms of where the conversation can go. And I think that if you ask those questions, you'll have completely different conversations than what you've been having so far.
Okay. And what is a right or a good volume to post per week? So how much would you post per week? That would be enough.
Yeah, 3 days minimum. 3 days a week minimum. 7 days a week maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you boost those posts with money or?
Yeah, it just depends on, like I said, what their goals are. If they're going to look at it as a success, if they get a bunch of likes, then 100%, yeah. Boost it. If they just care about leads and sales and you're basically just checking the box that you're active on social media, then do that. So you don't have, there's not like a golden rule. I mean, you can post 3 times a week, 7 times a week, 14 times a week. It just depends. And like a lot of what I've found too is that a lot of businesses don't necessarily 100% care about their posting unless they're a very visually aesthetic type of brand. So if it's like a resort or, an ice cream shop or something that e-commerce store, like it's going to be very important that they have a very aesthetic look. But, if it's like a service-based business or a gym or just something like that, or they just need to check the box to make sure they're active, and then you're just pounding them leads. There's not a one-size-fit-all answer for that, but just find out what's important to them and then do what it takes to make them happy, and then obviously charge the right amount for the time that you're going to be doing it, because you don't want to be killing yourself making 50 posts a week when they're only paying you $500 or something like that.
So let's say the goal is to get more likes or more likes on the Facebook page. What would you say? What's the amount for a local car dealership? The amount of likes that would be significant to be able to do further, analysis or further strategic things with the following.
So the more targeted your audience is, the more you're going to pay. So you can basically get likes for a penny a like if you're targeting in Afghanistan or some Middle Eastern country. Like you can get a ton of likes for cheap. So it just, like I said, I keep repeating myself, but it depends on what their goals are. So if they just want 10,000 likes to make them look good, you can give that to them for, I don't know, $100. But if they want, like you said, a targeted following, that's a totally different thing. So you're going to be paying $2, $3, $5 per like if it's a super locally targeted, engaged person that can, build into your audience. But a lot of times we're not really trying to build their followings on Facebook as aggressively, because it all depends on the business. Like, some, it's very important. They need to have a following so they can continue to sell to them and, their courses, if it's more of a brand like that. But some people, it just doesn't matter. They just need to check the box that they have 1,000 likes or whatever, and we're just going to run lead generation campaigns for them all day. So whatever's their goals are is basically, you have to map your strategy to that. And there's a like campaign function built right into Facebook that you can easily do your targeting that way.
Okay, so how would you analyze the competitors of or different businesses that do the same thing of a client, and how would you take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Facebook just released a new way that if you go on any business page, on the left-hand side, you can click info and ads, and you can see all the ads that they're running. So that's a way that you can competitively view what the market's doing and how they're reaching out to their customers. There's tools like Likealizer. You can look at their page and see what their engagement rates are. There's tools like SEMrush, where you can analyze their organic traffic and their paid search traffic. Those are 3 ways that you can definitely get a scope on the competition for sure. But you probably got time for one more question. You were super prepared, which is awesome, and you've given us a lot of good stuff. I think we probably have time for like one more.
Okay. And how would you schedule your advertising plan if you take in, let's say, how you call it, public holidays? How would you schedule your advertising spending?
Around holidays?
Public holidays, like Christmas or something like that. How would you schedule the spending?
Well, first you want to do it early, because if you wait till the day before Christmas to launch an ad, or the day before Black Friday to launch an ad, there's so many people trying to launch ads at the same time that the system bogs down. So typically you want to schedule that out at least 4 or 5 days to a week ahead of that holiday, just to make sure that your ad goes live. And then expect that you're going to pay more, because everybody else has got the same idea as you. All of them want to capitalize on that big spending holiday. So your cost per purchase is going to go up. Your cost per leads are going to go up. But also there's more buyers. So whenever there's more competition, it costs more. But I would say schedule it out as far in advance as you can, because I know that happened to us the last couple of years. Like Black Friday, I had to have the ad scheduled out at least 5 days before it hit, because it was taking anywhere from 1 to 3 days even to get an ad out of the review stage, just because of the amount of competition.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
And thanks for helping me. Thanks for taking the time. And
glad we could help. I appreciate you reaching out in the group and being active. We're trying to build a community here on the SMMA Hacks, and just help as many people as we can. One thing that would help us is if would you mind if we shared this kind of Q&A with the group or with our YouTube channel, just to help other people?
I just wanted to ask you if you will post it. Just go ahead. I have no problem. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. That'd be great. Cool.
Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.